welcome to another video on painting and hobbying with Epic 40,000. So here we have a Gargant that I'm going to paint up. And a little bit of background, I got him off eBay probably 2 or 3 years ago for about a tenner. He was incomplete. He didn't have the super lifter arm, the mech arm, so he was incomplete, and he was also listed as a stomper, if I remember rightly. So I got him for pretty cheap. So before I painted him, or before we start painting him, I've just undercoated him there in lead belter. I remembered the name of it. It's what bulk on metal used to be. So yeah, he's painted in lead belter, and I made a little arm for him. Well, actually quite a gigantic arm. Basic little conversion here out of some mega Gargant bits, shoulder pad, and then trimmed down the arm to make it fit there. I did have it without the shoulder pad, but it didn't look right, so it looks a bit better with the actual shoulder pad. It looks like it can turn and such. We've got a big flat area here which I can put a decal or something on, and it should look pretty cool. So he's going to be going into my Evil Sons clan. So the idea behind that is they're all very fast and they've all got vehicles. The entire clan that I've got is in vehicles. So he's in, this is the big mech for that clan, so he stomps about in this mech stomper, or mech Gargant, sorry, and fixing the vehicles as they break down or what, and wrecking some Imperials or Nids or whoever he comes across. So it's a mobile workshop, essentially, I think is the idea for me behind this. As you can see, it's a wee mini Gargant. If we look at the back of him, there's a nice wee doorway and window, and as I say, it's essentially a mini walking, terrifying workshop for a mech to roll around in or stomp around in. So I've based them in lead belter, which is how I do all my Gargants, is they all get a coat of this silver, this lead belter. And the next step will be to wash it all black to give it a bit of depth. And then after that, we pick our primary colour. If it was Goth, it'd be black, yellow for Bad Moons. In this case, we'll be doing them red. And so I'll bring it back with the wash on them to show you how that goes, and I'll show you the reds that I'm going to use, and we'll take it from there and paint up this little fellow here and get him into the army. The plan is to have a big, at least one big thing for each of the clans. So in this case, for the Evil Sons, they're going to get a mech Gargant. My Death Skulls, for example, have a great Gargant made up of the body's essentially a great Gargant. It is a great Gargant, but the head and the arms and other parts of them are stolen from mega Gargants and regular Gargants, and it kind of ties into the aesthetic that they loot everything from the other clans. My Bad Moons have several Gargants because they're rich. They can afford to have them. My Snakebites don't have a Gargant, partly because the Snakebite Gargant is, the feral Gargant is ludicrously expensive. That said, I do have the Forge World Squigoth, the Gargantua Squigoth that I got years and years ago. So that's their big thing. Goths have a straight up regular Gargant. The only ones that don't have anything big is my Blood Axes, because I've never really been able to decide on what they would have. I don't know if I would do a Gargant and maybe camo it up or something like that, or make a looted Imperial Gargant for them. I don't know, still thinking about that. But in this video, as I said, we'll do this little fellow and make him pretty and usable. And once he's done, he will finish off my Evil Sons. Or not Evil Sons. Yeah, Evil Sons. Yeah. and I'll maybe show how they all look together. Alright, so I'll get him washed and we'll come back and have a look at him once he's all washed. Here's a little mech Gargant, and he's been washed in non-oil all over. And what it's done is it's brought out the metal, made it, well, basically giving it shadows where it needs to be. And I've just applied that all over the model with a brush. There's not much I can tell you about washing that you probably don't already know. The main aim is to make sure it doesn't pool anywhere, really. So if you see it pooling anywhere, dry off your brush, apply the brush back to where it's pooling, and the brush will basically absorb a lot of it. There's a little bit of pooling here, but I'm not too worried about that because the flat areas will be getting painted anyway. But in and around certain areas, like in these wee recesses here on the arm, that'll be all nice and shaded, recessed. Just another little thing I'll add here. Should have done it beforehand, but I drilled the barrel a little bit just to give it a bit of depth. Now I don't actually have a micro drill or anything like that. So how to do that on the cheap if you don't have the drill necessary. Now this will work on things about this size, and it works on metal models. And this is how I've done it for ages. I really should invest in one of these little hand drill things, but I'm poor and cheap. So if you're wanting to do that, get a nail, little tiny nail, press it in ever so slightly to give yourself a guide hole, and then get a tiny drill bit. I got this drill bit in a set of loaded drill bits from B&Q years ago, and with your hand, a little tiny bit of pressure, because this is pewter, this is actually a masonry bit, it's not even a metal bit, and you can just spin it yourself, so you can, and you're really only going in about 2 mil, no more than that's really needed, and you'll see that it does the job. See little flecks coming off there. Clean it up, you've got a tiny little hole, enough to simulate the fact that it's an actual gun with a barrel. So yeah, you should really do that at the very beginning, but hey ho, doesn't really matter at this stage. So he's been washed and he's ready for the next stage, which is going to be red for him. So in my reds, I'm not one for using lots and lots of different paints usually. If I'm painting something blue, for example, if I'm wanting to highlight it, I'll just add a little bit of white to the blue I was using, and it'll make a lighter blue. Red's funny though. I always find that red ends up being kind of pink whenever I try to do that. So in the case of red, I do have a lot of red paints, and some darker ones and some lighter ones, so I can do highlighting better. I just find that, as I say, when I mix my reds to make them lighter, I usually end up with a kind of pink look, and it never works out that well. That's just in my experience. So we've got them all washed here in the recesses. So the plan will be, I'll go in and basically colour in the patchworks of basically slabs of metal that he's been welded together, or that has been welded together to actually build them. The aim will be to kind of carefully go in and paint in the reds around, leaving the recessed areas metal. And you don't have to fully paint in these slabs, this patchwork. If there's a bit of metal showing through, well, that's the aim. Because I've always found that orcs shouldn't be pristine. So if there's bits of the metal from underneath showing through, that's fine. It's just where the paint has flicked off, or incoming shells or what have bounced off the armor and torn the paint away. And just in general, I can't really imagine orcs being that careful with their painting, or even if they're using grots to paint their stuff for them. I don't think grots really would care that much. So the primary colours we're going to go for is red, and we'll patch all this in. We'll use a lighter red to do a little bit of highlighting here and there. So like along this like edges, these edges, these pronounced edges, we can highlight a wee bit. I'm going to paint his head green, so he's a bit of an effigy of Gorkamork, or even just an effigy of himself. Maybe he's a mech, he's a bit of a megalomaniac, and he's just built a giant robot version of himself. So at this stage, that's the plan. Get the reds on and get the green head in, and yeah, that'll be the vast majority of the model. Then we'll go in with some other metals, lighter metals than the lead belcher, some coppers and such to kind of break up the metal work. I think the arm, we'll paint the cables in, probably a nice blue cables because they're electrified, and we'll paint this big cable here, I think maybe black, and that'll be it. So we're going to use blue for the cables inside the arm, black for this cable on the outside, red for the most of the body, and green for the head. We're going to leave this gun primarily metal coloured, and yeah, and the feet will probably be primarily left metal. Actually, I might paint in the top of the feet. But that's it. Just have a look around the model, have a plan of what you're going to do before you start putting paint down. And we'll get back to him when that's all done. And hopefully he'll start to be coming together and looking cool. Right, so our little mech Gargant is done with his primary colours. The red, highlighted up, blue for the cables, black for the rubbery looking ones, and a wee green head. So basically the red is Evil Scarlet, and then edge highlighted ever so slightly with Wild Rider. The head was Warboss Green, and then added about a third of White Scar into it to make a lighter green to highlight that a wee bit. I went really bright on the blue with this blue, because I'm not even going to try and say that. Baharoth. Okay, kind of like the old ice blue that they used to do. And then I actually washed it with blue wash. It really brought it down a bit, made it look grimy. And then black's just your straight up black for the black cables, and then a very light dry brush of Eshin Grey over to only on the top parts to give it a wee bit of a highlight. And that's him done at this stage. He's coming together quite nicely. As I say, that Wild Rider really highlights very nicely along the red, so it does, all those sharp edges. So next is the metal work. Well, the metal work and this bit here. This is like slate of some sort, like a roof. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint that in brown. I've got a little paint here called Baylor Brown, which is kind of a light wood kind of brown. This here. So I'm going to paint that brown and then wash it, and then maybe just go over it again with the brown, and leaving the wash in the recesses. And that should hopefully do that. And then I've just kind of grabbed a big whack of metals that I've got. So I'm not wanting to do the lead belcher again. Lead belcher's kind of nice. So I've got my trusty Rufang steel, which if you watched any of my other videos, it's my favourite metal. It's not too bright, it's not too dull. It's a nice, just intermediate metal. I then got a couple of coppery looking metals. Balthasar Gold is that one. So I might use that. I've also got straight up Retributor Armor, which is actually gold. But we'll maybe put it on, see how it goes. And finally, I've also got Screaming Bell. Now, Screaming Bell is a really deep metal colour. I might apply it, I don't know. We'll have a look. I'd say that's about all the metal colours I've got, really. So we'll see what we can do with that. I've also got this Soulstone Blue. Now, I bought this ages ago, and I use it for painting either gems or Space Marine eye lenses. I find it's really good for that. I'm just basically going to paint it in this, where this metal cone is. There's like a little coil in behind it. I'm just going to run it in there. I'm going to put the room fang steel on it to brighten it up, and then I'm going to apply that over it, and it gives a kind of cool glowy effect. So we'll give that a go, and then that'll be him pretty much finished, other than getting some sand on his base and some decals on, which I'll show as well. So we'll come back after all the metalwork's kind of done. The metalwork's basically to break it up, instead of all just being this dull lead belcher. We'll paint in the pistons and just break up the metal a bit, make it a little bit more patchworked and orky. Okay, and here he is with the metalwork done. So to give you a wee look around, so that technical blue paint, the silver room fang steel, has a nice brighter silver than the lead belcher, and then just ink it in round, because it's like an ink glaze, thicker than an ink, but not an actual paint of its own. It's very translucent, so it makes this lovely kind of glowy blue effect that I'm quite fond of. Other than that, room fang steel to over parts of the lead belcher, kind of bring it up. The copper, I really actually like the copper and the red. I think they look well together. So I ended up doing this belt kind of area around them in the bronze, the coppery look. Same with the pistons. If you look at the pistons, the ends of the pistons have kind of gone with the copper, and then the room fan steel for the actual piston bit in the middle. What I've done is I make sure to leave the lead belcher at the very ends, so that's where the grime will build up. Kind of give a more realistic effect, or as realistic as a giant, mechanical robot made by aliens is. Use the gold around the feet, really, and just little dabs here and there to break up the metal work. And at the back, the roof. So the roof was that Baylor brown, and then washed in a brown, and then just the Baylor brown again, and dabbed it in as the slates, just painting in the slate effect. I used the copper just to break up the red and the silvery metals, essentially. Any piping is mostly the copper. So I'm happy with how that's looking. Went in and did the sand as well. Now, if you've seen my other videos, I've already talked about how I do my basin. So at this moment, it's just the sands on there. I need to go in and ink it and then dry brush it. And once it's dry, I'll go in with a dry paintbrush and just make sure, get the paint off his feet and such, that, or not the paint, the sand off his feet, any wee granules that have stuck about. So that's him. You could call him done there. I'm pretty happy with how he is. Went and just added a wee bit of black into the hole that I drilled out. But other than that, yeah, you could call him there. I'm not, though. I'm going to do two more things. The eye, if you see there, it's just silver. I'm going to colour that in. It was the gaze of Mork. I can never remember if it's Mork or Gork. It's a big laser in the eye. So we'll probably do a red laser effect, which will be wee dot of red and wee dot of white, so it looks like it's a glowing effect type of thing. So we'll get that done, and then as I said, I want to put some decals on. So if you look on his main body, there's not very many areas that don't have rivets or what, and I'd say I dotted in some of the rivets with the metal where the paint might have worn off. So I don't think we're going to be able to put any decals on the body itself. Maybe here could, but we'll see. But definitely this big patch here, this big flat red part, I want to put a decal on there. Same on the back here, put a decal on there, or at least two, and we'll see how that goes. So in regards to decals, I'm terrible putting on decals. It's a skill that I've never really been that good at. I'm very lazy at painting, and just basically cheat my way through it to make things look half decent. And the same with decals. If it's on a flat surface, I kind of can get it to work, but I don't have the technical skill, or just never learned the technical skill to be able to put them on fantastically. So I have some really old decals, from 1991. My goodness. Now they're Death Skulls decals for the most part that I can see there, and some Bad Moons. And we've got this one, which is Snake Bites, Goth, and I'm going to say the red ones will probably be our Evil Sons, which doesn't really work for us, unfortunately, because red on red is not going to work. So then I've got some newer ones. These are proper 40k ones that you get. Blimey, I think these are still, 10, maybe more years old. So we'll go with these. Probably these ones because, well, the white looks really good against the red. I've put them on other Evil Sons that I've got, so we'll go for a couple of the white ones. You can't even see the white ones. They'll show up better when they're on the red, trust me. There's like lightning bolts, which are always good for representing speed and zappy things. So the lightning bolts may go on there. And I always like these wee glyphs. So we'll get one or two of those on. And that will definitely finish it. We'll get the base finished as well. And we'll put them in with the rest of the Evil Sons. Oh, actually, these might go on. So these black ones here, I love that face. That looks class. There's a white one next to it. I don't think you can see it because of the glare. I mean, you just about see it at that angle. Yeah, we might put them on. They're very cool. I like them. Yeah, cool. So, as I say, happy with how he's looking at the moment. We'll get that eye sorted out, and we'll get the sand finished and a couple of decals, and I'm going to call them done. Yeah, happy days. Okay. Alright, so as promised, there's the Evil Sons army in all its red glory, using the Armageddon rule system, the original Armageddon rules. It's about 2,000 points here. Wee bit over if I had the 2 flak wagons in, but it's pretty much 2,000 on the point. To give you some idea, the mech boy Gargant, there are actually no rules for him in Armageddon, so he's actually going to be probably used as a super stomper. And got a stomper mob, 3 stompers, and following the same kind of idea. These are painted silver and then red all over, and then a wee decal in this big flat area, the same one that's on the MacBoy Gargant, the Mighty Bush looking one. And because these are Evil Sons, and so the stompers go faster, they're on roller skates made out of old rhinos. So they're pretty cool. And then in front we've got a battle fortress with a mob of boys and 2 flak wagons for a bit of air cover. And it's just a normal standard size unit of boys. To their right we've got some storm boys. Again, everything moves fast in this army, so these boys can't actually afford fighter bombers, so they've got little jetpacks. And then behind them, the Legion of Bikers, enough to do 2 not Blitz Brigades, Speed Occult, Cult of Speed, the fast ones, Speed Freaks, and they're made up bikes. Their bases are from Warlord. I like the Warlord bases. They're green and flat and there's no lip on them, and there's enough space to get 2 bikes on, or 1 buggy, or 1 Scorcher. Some really old stuff in here is wee metal bugger. Lovely. And then besides Stompers, we've got 3 fighter bombers to make up their wee squadron. They're flyboys, the really fast ones. And then to the left, we've got a lot of tanks. There's 2 big units. Well, you could take them as 4 normal sized Blitz Brigades or 2 big units of Blitz Brigades. So 8 in each unit, or I think you can take an Ooge unit, which is double that again. So basically all of them in one big mob. So yeah, plenty of scope there to do the army up in different formats, different sizes of units, and get some games in with them, hopefully, is the plan. Overall, I'm really happy with how the army turned out. I think the MacBoy Gargant really finishes it off. He's at the back, fixing what needs to be fixed as it breaks down or gets blown up. And I think he ties the whole army together. He's not too big, but in Armageddon, you basically get a war boss for free. So in this army, the war boss is essentially the big mech, and he's stomping about in his big mech Gargant, and it kind of thematically fits with the rest of the army. Not that many conversions in here really, just the stompers and the big mech himself, the big mech Gargant with the arm that I had to put together. There's a couple of wee extras here and there that you can do. I mean, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but that's just in the spare boy flag banner. Chopped his legs off, chopped the top of the turret off, the wee hatch, and put him there, and he's got a big dirty flag, because who doesn't love a big dirty flag? So yeah, that is a finished 2,000 point orc army. This is one of 6 orc armies I have, because, you know, go big or go home. So this is the first one that's completely done. The rest of them are in different stages of being painted. I think my blood axes are the ones that haven't been done at all. I think they're completely bare metal and plastic at the moment. But everybody else is at different stages of undercoat or partially painted. I'll maybe do some more videos, maybe show how to paint boys up from the ground up, and maybe some tanks or what. Well, we'll see what happens there. But anyway, hope you've enjoyed this. As I said, have fun when you're painting your orcs, because they're class wee models. They're full of character. And yeah, don't take life so seriously. Bye bye.